What's up, guys? This is DizzyPW with MMOHuts, and we're here at an Obsidian Entertainment event celebrating the launch of Armored Warfare from My.com, the publisher. We got two of the developers here who are going to give us a little bit of a preview of what's coming in the next patch and what direction they're taking the development of the game overall now that we're in open beta. And you can hop in and play whenever. You guys feel free to introduce yourselves and what you do with the company.
I'm Rob Nestler. I'm the art director.
My name is Charles Staples, and I'm a systems designer in charge of in-match gameplay.
Fantastic. So let's talk about that a little bit. Do you work with the PvE updates?
I work mostly on anything that happens in a match, so I do both PvP stuff and PvE stuff as well.
Okay, so what has been your purpose going through the development into open beta? What's been the things you focused on the most?
For open beta, we've gotten a lot of community feedback through our closed beta stuff about what the community likes and dislikes. PvE has been a big thing that the community has latched onto and really enjoyed. So moving forward, that's a big thing for us to try to improve PvE and continue developing new content for it.
So what kind of new content are you talking about? Are you going to be making new maps and modes, or are you going to be tweaking the way that the PvE matches play out?
A little bit of everything. We're definitely working on new PvE scenarios. Eventually, we'd like to try out new different types of gameplay in the PvE missions, whether it be new objective types, new things players are doing in those maps. It says, as long as we can come up with new ideas that players like, we'd love to push new content into it.
And beyond that, you guys are revealing these Tier 9 tanks coming out. What made you guys decide to push forward so soon into the Tier 9 tanks, and what do you think they add to the game?
They were always on the plan to come out as soon as they could, but it takes a long time for us to make vehicles and get them ready for the game. So they're pretty much just kind of moving out in the right order. Eventually you'll see Tier 10 vehicles too.
Well, I also think that the Tier 9 tanks also show off a lot of the new technology of modern vehicles. We have a lot of interesting modern day vehicles there with the Crab, the Challenger 2 that you would see on the modern day battlefield that are interesting for players to see.
Right, they look like mostly technology that's come out in the last 5 years. If you guys have a Tier 10 plan, where are you going with that? Are you going to be looking at prototypes? Do you have connections through your Russian syndicate over at mail.ru? Or what's the plan to actually make a Tier 10?
I don't think that we can get into those plans yet, but there has to be Tier 10 vehicles.
And some of them could be, paper tanks.
Yeah.
I mean, some of it might be dictated about what players want to see in the game. I know we've asked the community a lot of what type of tanks they'd like to see in the future, and community feedback is pretty important to us.
So for the really hardcore players that might be watching this, give us a rundown on what the Tier 9 tanks are about. Do we have more main battle tanks coming in? Are there some artilleries? What can we expect?
It's more main battle tanks, a TD, and an AFV or two. Yeah, and that's it. No SPGs at Tier 9. Is that right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Yeah. Mostly correct?
Yeah, I think it's 3 MBTs,
Yeah.
2 AFVs, and a light tank.
It is a light tank.
Yeah, there is no
You don't tank destroyer? Okay, there you go.
Not yet.
Okay.
Do you guys have a particular favorite out of it? I hear the Challenger is kind of like a moving fortress.
The Challenger is a moving fortress. I'm kind of partial to the light tanks and the AFVs. So the M8 in Tier 9 is a lot of fun for me. That's a light tank. So
It acts like a tank destroyer.
yes, it does.
Pretty dangerous. I think, honestly, people like to claim that some are better than others. I find that it's about play style. They're all very hard to penetrate from the front when I'm talking about the Tier 9 MBTs. And they all have weaknesses that you need to find and exploit from the side and the rear. So I think it's just a little bit about play style.
And so in promoting each player's play style, we heard a little bit of a rumor about a new form of upgrading your regular tanks to be more akin to premium tanks. I believe it's called Battle Hardened. Can you give us a little bit of details about that?
A little bit of detail. I believe the idea is that you're going to spend something to get the ability to earn more credits from the tank. I think that, I believe, is the main, but I don't know any more than that right now. Do you know any more than that?
Not much.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll remain a little bit in the dark on that, but we know it's coming.
Yeah.
Another thing that we heard is coming is some kind of upgrade to the base system, a base 2.0 system that's really building into what you guys originally envisioned for. And now that you're in open beta, you have the time to work on it. Do you have anything to tell me about base 2.0?
Yeah, I can say a few things about that. Really, the current implementation of base in OBT is functional for us and does a lot of things. But really, at Obsidian, we want to expand on this and try to incorporate a lot of the RPG aspects that Obsidian likes to do into the base. We have a lot of plans. I don't think we can talk about anything specific right now, but for the long term, we really want to take the base in some interesting ways.
Fantastic. Last question. You guys have done a lot of changes to artillery. You've done a lot of changes to how some of the heftier tanks work in the game. What is the main balance focus that your team is working on right now in terms of making the game feel better? Or do you think that you finally got the classes balanced in a way that it's fun for everyone involved?
I don't think we'll ever have it perfectly balanced. But right now we're in a decent state. We're fixing some armor values on some of the Abrams line. There's been a lot of feedback on that stuff. So we're doing a lot of investigating on telemetry reports to see how things are actually performing, to see if it confirms with what the community is giving us feedback on. But I'd say, yeah, there's always more to balance. There's always more things to tune, and I think we're happy with the game in the state it's in right now, but there's definitely ways to improve. What we're looking at here is changing our camouflage penalties. Instead of being a binary on-off to a specific value, is to have things be a little bit more dynamic and fluid. We're hoping that this dynamic and fluid camouflage penalties encourages people, allows for different, gameplay aspects to come out of it. So for example, like if I start shooting an autocannon, instead of just popping to one penalty value, it'll build up over time and it'll degrade over time. So ideally, like an AFV can hide in a bush and shoot just a little bit and stay fairly stealthy, but they're not going to be doing a lot of damage. But they won't be spotted. But if they unload their full clip, they will go even past the previous penalty that they had before. So we're going to look at this screen here real quick, as long as I'm on the right one. Sweet. So here's the Weasel with an autocannon. Previously, when I shot, it would just pop down and stay there while I was shooting. Now it builds up over time, and it'll also degrade over time and over distance. So the further I move from my previous location, it'll degrade faster. We're hoping this encourages players that are stationary will probably get spotted more, so we want people to move around a little bit more instead of just finding one good spot and hunkering down. That being said, all of our classes are starting to get abilities, and tank destroyers are our sniper class, and we're giving them a new ability that goes with this new camouflage penalty system. So tank destroyers, this guy over here, is getting a new ability that we're calling gun suppression, and it kind of works like a big silencer for the gun. It's a little unrealistic, but it's fun, and that's what we like. So fun is good. So right now we are also seeing some feedback on the forums of I play a tank destroyer, and when I shoot I'm easily spotted. This should help those guys in certain situations. So they have a new ability that once they're stationary for 2 seconds, the ability is available to them. And right now if I shoot, I get a pretty large penalty, and I'm most likely going to be spotted because I have a really big gun on this vehicle and it makes a lot of noise. So once I move around a little bit to reset that previous penalty, and I stop. Okay, sweet. So now if I use this ability, I have a limited window to get off a few shots with a minor penalty that will still build up over time. So now instead of a big penalty, I get a smaller penalty, and I have a few shots that I have to get off within a certain limited period of time before it resets. So this should help those guys be a little bit more stealthy when they shoot, but it's still a little bit tactical. They can't just get into a spot, hit the button, and wait to use it.
Is there any downsides to it? Like, is the shell velocity slower or something, so you can't just get people that are abusing and stealth firing everybody?
There's a pretty long cooldown. They can't move at all when they're using it, so that if they do get spotted and they still want to take advantage of it, as soon as they move, it turns off. So you have to be stationary. You have to be stationary for 2 seconds for it to be active. You have a limited window, and you have a maximum number of shots. So you can only get 3 shots off maximum. And all this stuff is work in progress and tuning. We have a lot of little ways to go on this.
Right.
And then there's a long cooldown on using it. So you're not going to be able to use it for every shop. So right now there's a 60-second cooldown on using it.
This is basically just your ability to kind of pimp your tank out however you want. You know, it's going to give that player the ability to customize their tank and give it the look that they want. Over here on Daniel's machine, this is actually one of the new tier 9s that we're including in our next upcoming patch. This is the Leopard 2A6. So this is an extension of, it comes right after the Leopard 2A5. This is starting to get into the era of where the tanks are, you know, kind of up to speed with modern times. This isn't the newest of this line, but it's getting pretty close. What you see here is kind of the base Leopard 2A6. It looks a lot like the Leopard 2A5 with a few small changes. And then what's next to it is that the Leopard 2A6 with the armor package equipped to it. So this is actual where we're getting some of the visual differences in our game. Kind of one of the things about this is the Leopard 2A5 was actually one of our first vehicles that we put into the game. And at the time, it was, you know, the visual quality bar that we were going for. Later on, we decided that it didn't actually have enough visual fidelity. So Daniel had to actually take the old file and kind of rip some pieces apart and give it more visual fidelity to bring it up to the modern standard that we set forth in our game.
What are the poly counts typically for your vehicles and the highest LOD?
They actually range. It depends on the complexity of the vehicle.
Yeah.
But you know, they can be anywhere in, you know, the 40,000 poly range all the way up to like the 80,000 poly range. But
Right.
it very much varies. Some of these vehicles with the ERA packages, especially the ones that have individual bricks, those are the ones that can typically get pretty high.
all the edges and cut all the
Yeah,
edges.
yeah. So, well, just having that much individual geo is a lot of that stuff. So over here on Daryl's machine, this is our tier 9. This is the tier 9 M1A2. So same thing with the Leopard. This is derivative directly from the M1A1. So a lot of the forms of the vehicle are very much the same. This one has just some additional pieces on the top. It's kind of funny with some of the tier 9s is you get all these upgraded stats and everything like that, but in the real world, because these tanks are built so modularly, there's not that much visual difference between the two. We try to be as realistic as possible, and there is some distinguishing features from this one, just some of the stuff attached to the top and the rear of the turret.
Fantastic. If you guys have comments, I know from speaking to a number of people at Obsidian today that they are very focused on watching their forums, and they will respond and address issues that you guys are bringing up. They did so with the PvE changes. It sounds like they might do some more based on the feedback. So definitely hit these guys up. They're very interested. They're not some foreign Chinese company that's not paying attention to what their fans want. They're right here in California, and they're very much interested in making this one of the premier online tank games out there. Thanks so much for your time, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.